Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Beaten Path. Today we're taking a look at the cozy practice space of Dave McClain. Dave is currently the drummer for the band Sacred Reich, and has also previously toured and recorded with Machine Head. A few years ago, Dave and his wife relocated to Oshkosh, my hometown, so this trip was just a few minutes across town for me. I was excited to include Dave in this series, not only because of his notable status and career in the music industry, but because I think his space is really the perfect balance of keeping it small and simple, while still suiting all the needs of somebody making a living at a high level in the music industry. Before we get into the video, I do want to make you aware that I had some small technical issues during this interview with my lav recorders, so my apologies for the moments of distortion and the lack of clarity at times. Lastly, I want to remind you that I'm releasing new episodes in this series each month, so please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all the future episodes, as well as all the other content I'm adding regularly. So without any further delay, let's check out the cozy drum sanctuary of Dave McClain. One of the things that was probably a pressing issue right when you got in here was finding a place where you could practice your drums and have everything set up.
That was pretty much my number one priority, just to find a room. I figured it would be a room somewhere else, and always just wanted to have a room in the garage, so that was just like the best thing ever, having that built.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what you ended up coming up with.
Yeah, let's go check it out.
Well, I want to talk to you quickly about the construction of this space and what kind of effort you took to help mitigate sound, because that's probably the biggest concern for any drummer, is making a space where you're not going to disrupt your neighbors or stop you from being able to do what you do.
That was the most nerve-wracking part of this, because I could barely put together an IKEA table, so obviously I had to bring somebody in to do it. So with materials and paying the person to build it, a room like this, you're still getting in like $6-7 grand. It's kind of like a room within a room inside the garage. Nothing's touching the actual garage walls, so that helps cut down on things. Each side is double drywall and insulation on inside, obviously, and then double drywall again on the outside, and that's for the floor, for the ceiling, door, and it works. That was a big test with the new neighbors who just moved in next door, who work nights and sleep days. So that was like, oh my God, So, but they're super cool, and they can't hear anything from their house, so that's great.
Let's talk a little bit about the equipment you use, because I know that through your career you've kind of developed some relationships with different companies, and your choices have probably evolved over time, whether for touring or recording or even just practice. So what do you have in here today?
This is my newest kit, the Yamaha Absolute Hybrid Maple, and this is a series I've been using probably for the last 8 years, I think, maybe, since they started making the Absolute Maple Hybrid. And then Zildjian, I've been with Zildjian for I think 28 years. I use what I want to use. I use what sounds the best to me. And for me, like with Yamaha, it was like I found out how great they were just from being in the studio and getting ready to record. One of the records when I was in Machine Head was a record called The Blackening, and came down to the PV kit, my Pearl Birch kit, and then we brought in a set. We just borrowed from Guitar Center. We brought in a set of Yamahas, put them up, and it was just like not even close. It was like, okay, we didn't even change heads yet. They were just like the normal heads that came with it, and that was the kit. The rest is history, as they say.
For the common person who just plays drums for fun, and reads Modern Drummer magazine and sees people's faces on ads, kind of looks at the whole endorsement process as this, glamorous world of just getting whatever drums you can dream of made for you. But I've always kind of learned that it's really about relationships, and dependency, because when you go tour in Japan, you're not always flying all of your equipment over there.
No.
You're dealing with rental equipment and what companies are willing to go through in order to help make you feel comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. That's a huge thing, is having the support, going in somewhere and knowing that we did, when I was in Machine Head, we did it's like a South American tour, and then we went to Japan, Australia. And so pretty much every day was like a rental kit. And going through South America, I was like, what am I going to get? And it was great. I was getting all these old Yamaha kits, and every day was kind of like this new surprise. You didn't know what finish it was going to be. You didn't know what series it was going to be. But luckily, it was all Yamaha stuff. So yeah, that's a very important thing about having a sponsorship. And yeah, like you said, like having relationships with the people at the companies is, for me, like that's always been, because I know a lot of dudes who, I'm like, oh, who's your rep? You go, oh, our management does everything. And for me it was always just like, I always had like a hands-on thing, no matter what company I was with. And now they're like, they're also my friends, and we talk and everything. And like my Yamaha guy, Greg, he'll send me, we're both Kiss freaks, so he he actually sent me a piece of Peter Criss's kit from Alive 2 one time, like a cymbal stand.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, oh my God. It blows my mind. Like, I never take any of that stuff for granted, because we were all that kid just playing in our, in our garages or our living rooms, and just dreaming of things like that. So for me to have all this stuff, I feel so lucky, For practicing, I've got this thing over here, this called the EAD 10. I'll use it live, so I'll just plug my in-ears. I'll have this sound coming out of my in-ears, and then I have the rest of the band coming out of just the regular wedges that you use.
I know Yamaha kind of designed it to work well if you want to load your own songs in to play along with, or
yeah, they've got like a whole app for it.
Yeah, and I think you can record content really easily through there.
Plug your phone into it, and I have like just a phone mount in here that when I'm doing like a drum video playthrough thing or whatever, and the sound quality is just amazing. Like it right into your phone, and it sounds like what you're listening to in your headphones. So for me, I have a problem with snare drums, and no matter what they are, if it's like a no brand, I just want to buy it. Tama piccolo, some Ludwig ones that I've collected over the years, Pearl, Ian Pace model. I wanted to get a Slingerland chrome on wood, because I know that Neil Peart played one of those at one time, so I had to have that. And then my Yamaha stuff, and they're so great. So they made me custom badges for some of my kits that I had. Think back to just being a little kid, and now you're getting like custom badges made, so it's pretty amazing. So this is for when I just, in the morning, when I wake up early and my wife's still sleeping. The actual bag works, and it feels pretty close to hitting a bass drum. I'm using a top of a seat too, because like less rebound than a pad, and so this thing's great because you just go into a dressing room, put it up against the wall, and annoy the rest of the band by doing that.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think you were telling me you have a little vault of some drum collection downstairs.
I do.
In the crawl space.
Let's go check it out. Let's go crawl in the space and check it out. Not all the kits that I've had over the last 26 years, but a good chunk of them. And this used to be my drink holder on stage. My tech just cut holes in the drum head and put some foam in there, so that was where the drinks were. So this was the first kit I ever got through an endorsement. My first deal was with Tama, and it was a guy named Joe Hibbs who passed away recently. He was great. It was a great day because I was in a hotel room, just basically calling drum companies. And when I got to Tama, Joe answered the phone, and he said, "Hey, I wanted to get in touch with you." And I was like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, John Tempesta, who at the time was playing with White Zombie, said I should check you out." So I had an endorsement with Pearl for a little bit, and one of the Pearl kids is back there, and then we were talking about the PV thing. So that was kind of, I never really was gonna play them, but the guy at PV who was making the drums made me a kit, one of the radial system, I think they call it. Yeah, they look crazy. They're just like, they look like UFOs or something. Like I said before, this was one of the kits that up on the A-beam of drums in the studio. This one right here almost cut the mustard. So this is my Black Oak kit. They had actually, I'd seen this finish from Mike Borden had it when he was playing with Ozzy and Black Sabbath back in '97, and I love that kit. It was so cool. So when I got with Yamaha, I asked about this finish, and they said they discontinued it, but the great people that they are, they made me a kit out of it. When I first got with Yamaha, just as a kind of an interim kit before I got the other ones, they'd given me this Stage Custom, and I was like, man, this thing sounds great. And like the hardware is great, everything's cool on it. Yeah, so this is all, I don't know how many kits are in. I'm gonna say there's probably maybe six or seven kits in here, and then over in Europe I've got more. I always sit down and I always count the kits, but then I forget and I have to recount them, and it's just too much trouble now. So I just have a lot of kits.
Yeah, well, it's kind of easy to forget over the years, and it'd be hard to let go of this stuff.
Yeah.
You have sentimental relationships. You've probably, played thousands of shows on certain kits, or
Definitely.
Traveled tons of miles. So.
All these have all these could tell a story. They've all been on great tours and had great times out on the road. So yeah, it's definitely a thing where I would never be looking to off any of them or anything like that. So
I appreciate your time, kind of showing me your space and collection of stuff.
Of course.
I hope it is super inspiring, for other people out there to sort of see that even, in the stage of your career and the work you do in the music industry, still this is a pretty kind of attainable setup. And
it is, and something that I just dreamed about as a kid. I remember, as a teenager, just thinking of, back then I was just thinking about it'd be great to have kind of like a big farmhouse, with my kit set up. And back then I was like, I just have like a full PA system pointing at me. But now, after years of hearing loss, that's not very smart. So what I have now is perfect, and it's the sanctuary, man. It's like where I spend all my time.
If people want to follow the work you're doing or come see, what's the best way to catch what you're doing?
Well, Sacred Reich is the band, and my Instagram is Dave McClain Drums, and follow me there.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.